If you have a true scary story you want to hear on the channel, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. And of course, thank you. Hey everyone. This glitch in the Matrix happened to me maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I have been intending on sharing the story. But it's honestly hard for myself to even wrap my head around this, and I was the one who experienced it. And the shyness led to inaction, which then led to forgetfulness. Anyway, I have excess free time today and was thinking about this event. I thought I might as well put it out there. I listen to audiobooks very actively. I use some round-the-neck Bluetooth earbuds. You won't see me without these things around my neck. I like their functionality. Just press the button and resume the book. Press it again to pause. No need to go fetching my phone out. One day, as I was packing up my laptop and other things after work, I received a call that I had been waiting for. One of those call you back instead of waiting things. And I answered it, originally with my Bluetooth headset, but it was an automated system needing actual phone key inputs, so I took my phone out of my pocket to put in the necessary information, and then continued to pack up my stuff and leave. I got to my car and put my bag and carry case in the passenger seat. I spoke with the rep for about maybe another 5 minutes, and then completed that call. Once the call was completed, my audiobook resumed playing as it should. I started up the car and drove home. Unwinding from my day listening to a book is my favorite thing to do. I don't live terribly far from work, maybe 12 miles. After getting home, I start to prepare dinner while continuing to listen to my book when I hear the sound of my phone indicating a call, interrupting my listening experience. I press the button on the headset to answer the call and say hello. You can't see who is calling you when answering the phone like this. I then hear my coworker's voice. They seem a little confused. They say my name, I say their name back. Then there is a bit of awkward silence. I begin to wonder as the possibility of what might have happened since leaving the office. And I ask, "Is everything alright? Is something going on?" And they ask, "Well, are you still here?" I say, "No, I'm at home now, but I have my laptop if you need help with something. What's going on?" My coworker then says, "Well, I saw that there was a cell phone on your desk, and I thought you might have left yours, so I called you, and it rang. I thought you had left, but then you answered the call." We were both silent then. At one moment, I was in the middle of chopping up some carrots and thinking about switching gears into work mode. Then I had to dedicate the brain power to what my coworker just said. As an intelligent, adult human being, my response was elegant and direct. "Huh?" More silence. Coworker says, "I'm looking at your phone on your desk. It's showing that our call is active right now." I move my hand down to my pocket that I keep my phone in and give it the trusty patent check, only to find that my phone pocket is empty. As my hand is resting on my empty pocket, I start saying, "That can't be right. Bluetooth doesn't have that kind of range." Only then to have the call disconnect. The Bluetooth headset gives the beep beep of it trying to find the device that it's paired to. Beep beep, beep beep. Then the Bluetooth device powering itself off as it cannot find its paired device or a new device wanting to pair to it. I stand in my kitchen for a minute longer thinking about this. It must be some kind of prank or something. My coworker doesn't live terribly far away, but how would they have stayed close enough as I was on the freeway? I try turning on the headset as I go to my bag and check for my phone. There's nothing there. I turn the headset on as I run outside to check my car. No phone. I'm a tad flustered at this point, so I hop in the car and drive back to the office. Getting into the office, I head to my work area to find my phone on my desk where I had taken it out of my pocket to put in the dial pad numbers before I had left. I unlocked the phone and checked the call history to see the call log of my coworker and I's 2-minute and 11-second long conversation. I walk over to my coworker's section to talk to him about the call, and upon seeing me, they say, "Oh, good, so you were here. You had me pretty freaked out, man." I didn't want the kid to be scared or anything, so, thinking fast, I say something like, "Yeah, someone needed my help upstairs with something." Still, to this day, I think about this. How was I just interacting with the Bluetooth features of my phone at such a large distance? Recently, there have been a lot of studies about how most of our reality is what we can perceive, and how much of our perception is dictated on what we can predict with our senses. What if, in my mind, I was just predicting that my phone was in my pocket, and because of that, my Bluetooth should be connected, and after the call is completed, my audiobook would resume playing. Or maybe whoever is watching over my simulation had a major screw-up, and didn't notice that I had left the phone, and was freaking out when I had realized I didn't have it on me. I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this. I have a friend who, for the purpose of this story, we will call Kay. I've known her for 20 plus years, and even lived with her briefly a couple of times. Her mother works at an iconic restaurant in our city, and has for almost the length of our friendship. Because of this fact, my friend and I were able to eat there for free whenever we liked. We didn't abuse this privilege, but we have naturally taken advantage a handful of times, and thoroughly enjoyed it. My friend and her mother didn't always see eye to eye over the years, and she was, and still is, a daddy's girl. Her father and mother, although never divorced, remained in a loveless marriage, barely acknowledging the existence of one another. They lived in the same house, however, so they remained committed to their marriage vows. This is all relevant to the story, I assure you. So, at some point, my friend gets pregnant. Roughly 2/3 into the pregnancy, her mother dies. She's oddly indifferent, but sad that her mother won't get to meet her grandchild, and vice versa. When she got the news, she called me and I answered. "Hello." And she immediately said, "My mom died. My mom is dead." And I recall my initial thoughts being disappointment that we wouldn't get to eat for free at that restaurant anymore. I recall that because it was immediately followed by me feeling disgusted and horrified with myself for that being my initial thought, but thankful that those weren't the words that came out of my mouth. I'll tell you this right now, if you ever have such a thought as your reaction to a friend telling you that one of their parents has died, the feeling of disgust that follows is so overwhelming that it stays with you forever. It's not something you forget unless you're a certified sociopath. Fast forward to the following day, and I'm sitting in her house with my boyfriend at the time, who we'll refer to as Jay. We're discussing the fact that her father must feel mixed emotions regarding the passing of his estranged wife. We then move on to say that despite the fact that it will be so nice for him to finally be able to date, and hopefully find a more suitable partner. She then remarks that at least she, being an only child, will inherit her mother's car, which will help with the newborn baby-related tasks, and how the timing kind of worked out because her boyfriend had recently smashed up his vehicle after smashing up hers the year before. She then asks if I will attend the funeral with her, and I, of course, agree to do so. For whatever reason, I don't end up attending the funeral, and she goes with a mutual friend of ours instead. Soon after, she has her baby, and between the chaos of being a new mom and my relationship with Jay being tumultuous at best, along with the seclusionary joys of COVID, a year or so flies by without me so much as meeting the little one. Eventually, my boyfriend and I break up, and her baby is now old enough to toddle about, and COVID's ugly head has ceased to rear. I ask if she would like to hang out the following day, and she says that she would. I give her my address, and we plan a time frame in which she'll be by. The next day comes and goes, and she doesn't show up. That evening, I message her asking what happened, and she tells me that her day got away from her as the errands she had planned all took longer than expected, and before she knew it, she was already scheduled to return her mother's car. I, puzzled, ask to whom she had to return it. She says, "My mom?" I, having just damn near fallen off the couch, decide to call her directly, because this mode of communication is clearly broken. She picks up, and I have her repeat to me what she just said. She does. I sit in stunned silence for a moment, and then proceed to say, so, there's no other way to ask this, so I'll just ask it directly. Didn't your mother die? To which she says, huh? And I respond with, your mother, she's dead. Pretty sure your mother died last year. She starts laughing and asks me what the hell I'm talking about. So I proceed to remind her about the conversation regarding her dad and how I was supposed to go with her, and how she went with her other friend instead, and so on. She goes, dude, I don't know what you're on, but my mom is very much alive. I just saw her a few hours ago, when I returned her car. I am beyond confused at this point. I apologize and excuse myself from the call. I then call my ex. He picks up and I say, hey, remember last year when Kay's mother died? He says, yeah, you were supposed to go with her to the funeral, but didn't end up going. To which I reply with, yeah, well, that's probably for the best, because she never died. He then says, no, she died. We sat around talking about how awesome it was that her dad was finally free, but a bummer that she didn't get to meet her grandchild. And I'm like, oh, I remember, but apparently none of that happened. He responds with, I was sitting next to you when she called you and told you. Don't you remember? When the call was over, you told me that crappy thing you thought about the free food and how horrible you felt about it. To which I respond with, yeah, I remember, but I'm telling you, according to her, her mother is alive and well, and none of that ever happened. We sat in a kind of shared stupefied silence for a few moments, and then ended the call. She now has 3 kids. I've met a total of 0 of them, and her mom, still very much alive. Jay and I actually experienced a few, if not a handful, of timeline jumpings throughout our courtship. The only ones either of us ever experienced, in fact, before or since. I have to assume that it's pretty rare to jump timelines and then jump back simultaneously with another person even once, let alone a number of times. In any case, this is just the craziest one. Today, I may have experienced a glitch in the Matrix while walking my dogs. One of my dogs, a border collie, sometimes pulls on her walks. And because of this, she has always walked in a harness. It goes over her head, wraps under her chest, and clips closed on both sides of her body behind her front legs. It fits very snug on her. My border collie is walked on a 6-foot leash that is attached to the harness. There is no way that she can easily come out of the harness when she pulls or when standing still. The only way it may be possible for her to get out of it as if she backs away from you while she is looking at you with significant force, and at the same time you pull the leash towards yourself, i.e., like playing tug of war with your dog. In this extreme case, the harness could potentially pull over her head. Anyway, today it was raining lightly. No other people or dogs were around. Both of my dogs were relaxed, sniffing along a fence after walking for about 1.5 kilometers. As I said, she was relaxed. The leash was slack, and she was about 4 feet from me. When she finished sniffing a particular spot, she turned about 90 degrees toward me, and pop, the harness was on the ground next to her. It was all clipped together and still in the shape of her body. The only difference was that she was not in the harness. I wasn't talking on the phone, or looking at the screen, or daydreaming. I was just looking at the dogs to make sure they didn't pick up and eat any crap off the ground, as my dog sometimes does. It was like I blinked and she was out of the harness. I'm not a big Matrix believer, but thinking back on this event, the blink I experienced just before she popped out of the harness seemed to be more significant than a typical eye blink that lasts a microsecond. It was not a long blink, but for some reason my brain keeps thinking back to that blink, which seemed different. I keep wanting to describe it as a thicker and darker blink. It's hard to understand and explain. Anyway, do you think this could be a glitch in the Matrix? Or am I just losing my mind? Hey friends, I have merch. Weird self-promotion plug here in the middle of the video. Link down below in the description, visuals on screen for the video of what the merch is, if you want to buy the merch. It's new design, it's simple, it's cool, it doesn't even say the channel name, check it out. Okay, next story. Last week, I was out in my backyard. I live on about 10 acres, but I was only about 100 feet from my home. I usually go for a short walk every day down the same trail with our dogs. I had walked this same trail every day for the last week. Off to one side of the trail, I noticed a recently dead deer. It wasn't there the day before. Very obviously not there the day before, as I had to stop my dogs from engaging with it. This, in and of itself, is not odd. I live in the woods, and animals die. It happens. I didn't give it much of a thought. I am an avid hunter, and I can identify the state of decay of animals pretty easily. I should also add that I'm literally a scientist. Like, my degrees are biology and medicine. I'm quite pragmatic, and I can usually remain objective. Science explains a lot. Anyways, this was just mildly interesting. I went back the next morning to snap a pic to share with my dad. Overnight, the deer had deteriorated severely. Again, I could explain this mostly. Temps were rising, and it had increased from about 38 Fahrenheit to 44 Fahrenheit overnight. There are coyotes here, so perhaps that explained it. However, what I could not explain was the fact that a pair of rather expensive custom sunglasses that I had lost 6 years ago were sitting neatly, undamaged, next to the deer's hind quarters. They are brightly colored. Had these been there the day before, I would have noticed them as they are so obvious. I left them in place, went to get my wife, and showed her the deer without mentioning the glasses. She saw the deer, and in a moment her face went pale, and she scanned and saw the glasses. Her response was, "Are you messing with me?" No. So we brought my sunglasses home and tried to work it out. Maybe melting snow had moved them from the woods? Could I remember having lost them in the woods? No. Snow had been gone well over a week, and I'm 90% sure that I lost the glasses on a fishing trip far from here. It was evening by that time, so the next day on my walk back on the trail, My wife came with me to see if there were any other signs of something that could explain this. Upon arriving at the deer, we noticed something yellow about the size of $50 sitting in the exact same spot my glasses had been. Not close to the spot, in the exact spot. It was a croc gibbet that my daughter had lost, presumably at school. At the latest, this was lost in October of 2021, according to my daughter. About 2.5 years ago at the very least. There is no way that I would have missed this item. I would have had to touch it when I picked up the glasses. My wife was also a second set of eyes in place that would have seen it. It is also of note that upon this visit, the formerly freshly dead deer was almost nothing more than a skeleton with some errant hair here and there, as if it had been in place maybe 6 months. The flesh was almost entirely gone, just some dried strands here and there. Bottom line is, over the course of 3 days, this deer went from appearing to be dead for maybe 12 hours to a skeleton. And a missing pair of sunglasses and a shoe decoration showed up in the exact same spot. My dad used to work in a car lot. He still does today, but he had a friend there who worked on the opposite side that my dad did. The lot that my dad works in is really old and has a lot of old folks in there, and one of them was this guy that we'll call Tony. Tony was a pretty old guy who had a lot of cool collections inside of his carrier. The car lot uses shipment carriers that you can buy/rent out for work. And one of them was this old 1922 Silver Liberty coin, which he gave me as a birthday present when I was 7. Fast forward a few years, and I start carrying the coin around with me as a sort of lucky charm. But then, one day as I'm cleaning my room, I pick up a jacket that the coin was inside. The coin then falls out of the jacket and onto the floor. Since it was a silver one, it made a pretty loud sound when it hit the floor, and my tenants and parents could both hear it. However, as it was doing the thing coins do on the ground when it's kind of swirling, I try to pick it up and it just vanishes. I look around my entire room and it is gone. After that day, I never saw the coin again, and neither did my dad ever see Tony show up at the car lot. Keep in mind that this was in later 2021. I'm talking November late, so right now before the coin would have turned 100. I don't know if the age has anything to do with it, but there is no way something that everyone heard drop, that I saw drop, would just vanish along with the guy who took it. Right? When I was 16, in 2004, my family visited my aunt and uncle with their kids in Buffalo, New York. After a few days, we headed to Eden, New York, where my grandfather had a cottage. Even though he passed away when I was young, we always called it Grandpa's Cottage, because he built it with his own 2 hands. My aunt inherited it because she lived close by while we were from New Jersey. My grandma had died of lung cancer before I was born, and both of my grandparents had their ashes spread on the cottage property. The cottage was nestled on about 80 acres of woods, dotted with small fish ponds and open fields. It was a place filled with memories of swimming in 18 Mile Creek, exploring the woods, barbecuing, having bonfires, and fishing. At night, my 3 cousins and my sister would camp in tents outside the cottage in one of the open fields. We played a game called the Lantern Game, invented by my cousin, let's call him Timmy. We used a battery-powered lantern that we kept outside our tents for bathroom trips. The game was simple. One person would take the lantern into the deep woods, place it on the ground, and then return. The next person would go into the woods, find the lantern and carry it further before returning. The last one brave enough to fetch the lantern and bring it back won the game. We had a few flashlights at the tree line, and the distant sound of voices was our guide back. Being one of the younger cousins, I usually quit after my first or second turn. But that year, at 16, I was determined to prove myself, especially to my two older sisters. Timmy and his older brother, Jimmy, were legends at the lantern game. They would disappear into the woods for 15 or 20 minutes before returning, and Timmy, or Jimmy, always won. One night, it came down to me, my oldest sister, and Timmy and Jimmy. Just before my turn, Jimmy warned me to watch out for Grandma and Grandpa. I brushed it off, trying to act cool, but once I was in the woods, fear gripped me. My heart pounded as I thought of my grandpa, who I remembered as a kind man, but now as a dead, rotting body lurching behind me. My grandma was just a name and a face in an old photograph to me. I was about 3 football fields deep in the woods, struggling to find the lantern, and I kept hearing noises. My mind was racing. Suddenly, goosebumps covered my body and I felt an electric charge. I couldn't hear my family anymore. Instead, I saw a small shack with a dim light inside about 30 feet away, something I had never seen before. I froze, thinking I might have wandered onto someone else's property, but it didn't make sense since this was my grandpa's property. The shack looked run down, like something from a horror story. Time seemed to stop. I saw a wooden chair in front of the door. I told myself not to move. I didn't see or hear any movement from inside, but the light being on told me that someone was there. After what felt like a long time, I gathered the courage to run. I bolted back to the tree line, my senses heightened. I ran as fast as I could, dodging trees until I saw the flashlights of my cousins and sisters. I told them about the shack. We decided to go back together to find it, but it wasn't there. Even in the daylight, with my uncle leading the search, we found nothing. To this day, I have no idea what happened. We walked this way to get to 18 Mile Creek, so we know the land pretty well. I saw the shack clear as day with that dim light on. My best guess is that my mind conjured it up, a memory born of panic of my dead grandfather while playing that stupid game. Though I have no idea why it was a shack. I've only shared this story in intimate settings. It still unsettles me. I'm in my 30s, because I know I saw that shack. Now, it's part of our family's folklore about Grandpa's cottage. Okay, so in order for everyone to understand this story, I need to do a physical description of the part of the room that I'm in. The bed is against the east wall, and my purse is just beneath the side of the bed. Last night, I was kneeling facing the bed and rummaging in my purse. Behind me and to my right, a few feet, is an air mattress, sat parallel on the south wall. Against the south wall is the heater. It has a table on one side and a desk on the other, so the air mattress blocks off access to it unless you step over the air mattress. Yesterday, my friend gave me a beautiful necklace and a matching set of earrings. They came in a box, but I happened to carry a couple of jewelry bags in my purse with me because, well, long story, but they're in my purse. So I pulled out one of those bags to put the necklace and earrings in it. Then I closed the bag and put it back in my purse. Unfortunately, one of the earrings did not make it into the jewelry bag, and just was sitting on the carpet between my knees. I didn't think anything of that, because I'm blind and sometimes I just drop things, so I picked it up and opened my purse again, reaching back in for the jewelry bag, and it was gone. I opened every compartment and pocket in that thing, and the jewelry bag was nowhere. But I figured that this was just a case of me not looking well enough and I would just find it the next time I looked inside. So I dropped the earring into a zipper pocket. I'm staying over at my friend's place, so my next order of business was to make up the bedding on the air mattress. I had to keep stepping over it to the side closets to the heater, making sure that the blankets are even, and as I was over there, I stepped on something soft underneath the heater. You already know what it was. Somehow, my jewelry bag was sitting under the heater, basically across the room. There was literally no way it could have gotten there. I just chalked it up to another unexplainable mystery of life. This happened about 2 weeks ago, and for a little bit of context, my parents have been divorced for over 10 years. My dad recently started going out with a vegan girl, and as a result, whenever she comes to his house, he has to buy vegan stuff for her. Sometimes they leave some stuff for me. And for the last month, I've stayed at my grandparents' house. My dad comes regularly to see me, and sometimes brings me stuff. The day after having her at his house, they bought a box of vegan ice cream bars. The box had 4 of them. My dad ate 1, his girl ate 1, and he gave me the remaining 2. I didn't really want ice cream at the moment, so I left them in the freezer. The next day, while looking for a snack in the fridge, I remembered that I had those ice cream bars, so I went for them. I opened the box and reached for one when I noticed that there were 3 bars now. I didn't think much of it, as I thought it was a box of 5, so I grabbed my ice cream and left the others in the freezer. The next day, my dad came to see me, and so I told him about the extra ice cream. And he told me that the box had 4 bars. They had eaten 2 and left me the other 2. So I went to check the box for the extra ice cream, and there was 1. And the box said that it had 4. My grandparents can't really eat ice cream because it would make them sick, and besides, they knew they were my bars, so they would have asked me before eating one. Or, in case they did, they would have told me. Which, when I asked, they said they didn't even touch the box. Even stranger, I went to check the trash just in case there was an extra ice cream wrapper. But there was just the one that I ate that day before, and I swear to God there were 3 bars the night before, and there was nobody else in the house besides my grandparents and myself. And no, my dad didn't eat any bar after he gave me the box. Thinking about other Glitch in the Matrix stories, I would like to think that in another universe, someone lost an ice cream bar one day and the next day, they got it back. I got a miniature poodle who was rescued and named her Minnie. My sister and I loved her so. My sister lived down the road about 5 minutes. She lived alone and she decided to get herself a little poodle who was a toy poodle, so even tinier. But the time glitch happened several years back when Minnie would lie in my dad's bed by his hand all day as he was unable to get out of bed. One day, as my sister was visiting, he said, "I want Minnie, not that other dog." But we had not had another dog until after he died almost 2 years later. But then, it really weirded us both out. So that, my friends, was a collection of some Glitch in the Matrix stories that are bizarre, strange, odd, awkward, stories that make you think about our existence, I guess? Make you think about the strange things of our reality. How do I say that? How do I say that right? Make you think about the oddness that is reality, that is this existence. They're strange stories. They're bizarre. They're supernatural in nature to some extent. They're just odd stories that are greatly enjoyed by the beautiful folks that listen to this channel, and even those that don't. Those that listen to the likes of formerly Paranormal Rising, Kinetic Symphony. Those are really the only ones I can think of that do glitch stories. I think Masquerade, Lazy Masquerade, did them once at one time, but I don't think he does it really anymore. But anyways, my point is, they're fun stories that aren't really covered, and I love doing them, so I do them weekly. And maybe in the near future there will be 2 during 1 week. Just saying. Maybe in July? Maybe? Yeah, you know, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully you all enjoyed these stories, and my stupidity that comes after the stories. I don't know what's wrong with me. I do. Medically diagnosed, but, you know, we don't go there. Anyways, hopefully you all enjoyed these stories. They were good, in my opinion. Some really bizarre ones. Most of these ones were from Reddit this time around, but a couple of them were submitted, so thank you to those who submitted their stories, and also thank you to those from Reddit who allowed me to use their stories. All stories are used with permission, as always. I never use a story without permission, be it submitted or from Reddit, so, yeah. Also, I know the weird self-plug in the middle. If you hated that, I'm sorry. I wanted to plug it, because I don't ever talk about my merch store, and I have, like, really cheap merch. My shirts are, like, $14, $15 versus, like, $30 for some other people. I keep them really low. I make, like, $2 off each sale of merch. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I really like the merch. I like my designs that I make. And, I mean, all those designs are, like, I make them, I do something with them somehow. They're not from other people. I had one that I commissioned last year that I could still put up because it's for the summer, and I forgot to. Anyways, check out the merch store if you want. I try to keep it cheap. And the reason I keep it cheap is because I don't want it to be a price that would, like, gatekeep myself from buying my own merch, because I do. And I don't even get a discount. I pay full price. Granted, like, I make like $2-3 out of each sale, but yeah. Anyways, T-Chip is a good store platform. Just know, like, some of their stuff runs small, so I do recommend always getting one size up if possible. Just saying. Just a recommendation. Yeah. Anyways, link in below for that. If you enjoyed the story, hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider subscribing. That helps tremendously. You can also join Patreon and membership or get early access to content like this and other things, depending on how you sign up and what you sign up for. There's also the super thanks, which is a tip to the channel. I'm trying to move this along because we need to get to the word of the week, which is what we're at right now. On the screen right now, and prior to this sentence, is a collection of screenshots from my video from last week, where everyone who submitted the word of the week is on the screen. Why I say weird words, not good. Those of you who submitted a comment are on the screen right now. Thank you to each and every single one of you. You all went above and beyond and are amazing people, and I appreciate it more than you will ever know. Yeah. All that said, this week, the word of the week is going to be a different one. It's a little easier, maybe, than some of the previous. The word of the week is going to be dapper. Dapper means to be neat and trim in appearance, or very spruce and stylish, or alert and lively in movement and manners. Fun fact, my brain likes to create pictures whenever I read words. There's probably a word for that. But anyways, whenever I read certain words like this, my brain creates an image immediately from the word. I'm not like those cool people who can, like, read a number and have a color and a texture and a shape in their mind from it, but I do see pictures with words, and the word dapper makes me think of penguins. All that said, friends, hope you're having a beautiful day. Hope I see you again here very soon, but until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, and until next time, much love, and of course, sleep well.